So I grew up with a mother who loves a good quote. It's like her hobby. In fact, she has a book that she finds a quote, she puts it into the book. And I'm not going to lie, I hope that in her will that is bequeathed to me because I got that same gene. I love quotes. I love things that are said concisely and make me think deeply, and one of those is from a guy named Blaise Pascal, and I love what he said. He said, "People almost invariably arrive at their beliefs not on the basis of proof, but on the basis of what they find attractive." In other words, most of us believe things that we want to believe. We believe things that we hope are true. And we were convinced of them not because someone drew it out on a board or on a napkin or gave us some very verbose explanation. There was just something about it that in our gut and in our heart, we wanted it to be real. We wanted it to be true. There could be any number of things in your life right now that if someone were to come up to you and go, "Why do you believe that?" You'd go, "I don't know. Just feel something," right? And that's true when it comes to God. Let's be honest, let's be fair. To anybody that goes, "Yeah, you guys are a bunch of feely, touchy-feely sorts of people that believe in this big higher power," I understand that you have to want to believe. I could get up here and explain it till I'm blue in the face or try and convince you until I pass out, but at the end of the day, if you don't want to believe in a God that's real and created everything and is personal and all of that, you're not gonna. There's got to be something within us that shifts, that changes. And what's hard is that that's really difficult to get to happen in somebody else, right? Like it is really hard to get somebody to feel something so that then they will start to reorient and reorganize and shift their thinking about something as big and as huge as God. And the problem, I think, is that the way it gets explained to us isn't helpful. The way God gets laid out in a church setting like this, or a small group setting, or around the water cooler at work, or in the lunchroom at school, it's not always helpful because our mode or our strategy is kind of flawed. And it usually goes something like this. When it comes to God, He's not fill in the blank. So we never talk a whole lot about what God is. We just talk about the things that He isn't. Because then we hope if we eliminate enough of the variables or the question marks, then we're just going to settle into the truth. The problem with that is it just doesn't work. So if you had never seen a computer before, and I was going to try and explain to you and convince you of the truth of Apple computers, and the best explanation I could come up with to you is, it's not fruit. I have eliminated one question mark. There are millions more. It's not actually going to help you understand at all what a computer is or what a computer does. You just know one small thing that it's not. So we don't get anywhere by doing that. And no matter how many knots we come up with, there are infinitely more. There are just more questions that come to our own minds or come up in the minds of the people that we're talking to. Eliminating isn't a good strategy. The other thing we do often is we say, "Well, He's like," and we come up with metaphors. But every metaphor has a limit. When you're talking about an unlimited God, a limited metaphor is literally a drop in the ocean of explanation. It's just not helpful. Especially because the thing we're trying to explain to somebody is something that they've never seen, and they've never heard, and they've never touched. I think of it like this. Not long ago, well, it was a long time ago now, I got to preach in Haiti. And I remember standing literally in a tarp stick church. That was the whole building. You thought we had it rough here. We don't have it rough. But I remember standing there and talking about Jesus washing our sins as white as snow. And the looks on their faces, because they'd never seen snow. Even if you think they must have looked it up on the internet, they don't have the internet. So these people are sitting there going, I have no idea what he's talking about. In fact, I'm more confused than when he started with this whole thing. When you don't have any parameters to understand even the metaphor, it's no help at all. So this strategy we've adopted where we're just constantly saying, well, God is like, and then we say Father, or God is like, a director, or God is like an author in our life. And people are like, I don't know any authors. And I don't know any doctors, and my dad's not all that great. So this isn't really helping me. So then we might shift into, well, whatever you think, he's more than that. It's just more complicated than you. So the frustrating thing about that is we might land on a grain of understanding when it comes to God. And then someone comes along and goes, that's not deep enough. That's not complex enough. He's more than that. Which just ends up making us throw our hands in the air. Why am I trying? If I'm never going to be able to get my head around any part of God, then what is the point in trying at all? The truth is, the way God has been explained to so many of us has left it pretty fuzzy and pretty irritating. And so when it comes to him, we're doing this number a lot. I'm in my middle 40s now, so I do this a lot. I pull things back, keep it at arm's length, and squint. And maybe I can make something of it then. And this is what it feels like with God. We hold him at arm's length and we squint, and when we squint, we can make something out. Usually what we want it to be rather than what it actually is. Because it's just never been explained, it's never been clear. And then at some point we go, it probably isn't able to be explained. It probably isn't able to be clear. I mean, we are talking about God that made everything. But the good news is, while that is true, he didn't leave it that way. God is complicated. God is difficult to understand. God is beyond any capacity we have to get our head around him. But he didn't leave it that way. He sent Jesus. And what's so amazing about Jesus is that all of that complexity and all of that enormity and all of that confusion starts to go away because Jesus wasn't just a great teacher. Jesus was and is God. And when God took all of that complexity and put it into a body, it changed our ability to connect with him. It changed our ability to relate to him and to understand him. Lucky for us, there's a lot of quotes from Jesus all over the scriptures. You had guys follow him around writing stuff down. I just imagine that at some point Jesus was like, John, are you writing this down? This is going to be important. And John wrote it down, and it's lasted all these years for you and I to read. So this quote is from Jesus. And I'm going to tell you right out of the gate, it's the one that got him killed. When Jesus uttered the words that he's about to utter, it was the moment where the religious leaders were like, we have to figure out a way to get rid of this guy. Because he's spouting off craziness, and people are actually believing it. John writes, what Jesus said, if you had really known me, you would know who my Father is. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Translation, I'm him. I'm God. I'm the creator. I'm all of that into a body. If you've ever wondered what is God like, you're looking at him. If you can know me, you can know him. And that word is so interesting, what Jesus uses. He uses, in our language, it's K-N-O-E. And most of the time when we think of knowing something, we think of facts or rules or understanding and our ability to kind of spout those things back off. So you know what 2 + 2 is. It's a reflex for you. It's 4. Like, you don't even have to think about that, right? You know that. That's not the knowing that Jesus is talking about. The knowing, when Jesus says you can know me and you can know God because you know me, because I am God, is a term of intimacy. Like intimate intimacy. In fact, sometimes in scriptures, you'll see phrases like, and he knew her. I'll let you translate that for yourself. We have children in the room. It is literally a term used to show a deep, deep connection, up close and personal. And so Jesus is saying you can be up close and personal with the God who created everything because you can be up close and personal with me. You can know God, the big, cosmic, confusing, complex God right here. And this has been God's heartbeat from the start. He has always said that knowing him is the greatest value. Understanding him is the greatest expedition of our lives. And it's not an exercise in futility. This is what the prophet Jeremiah said hundreds and hundreds of years before Jesus walked earth. He wrote, quoting God, "Don't let the wise boast in their wisdom or what they know, their smarts, or the powerful boast in their power, or the rich boast in their riches. But those who wish to boast should boast in this alone, that they truly know me and understand that I am the Lord." Top shelf, knowing God. And for God to say, this is the highest value, he's saying it is possible. He wouldn't lay that out as the thing we should pursue and boast about if it weren't possible to actually know him. And I believe with all my heart that when he's laying this out for Jeremiah to share, he is understanding that in a few hundred years, he's going to walk around. He's going to build relationships with people, and he's going to do things that will change the world. And he's going to do it in flesh. The Creator is going to become part of the created. The intangible will become tangible. And that's so important for us because in any relationship, you have to be able to relate. That's fundamental in the word itself. All of your friendships and all of your relationships are foundationally, at least, put together on some connection that you had, something maybe in common, a way that you relate to each other. So some of us are really good friends because you wore a Bears shirt to this church. And we connected because I'm a Bears fan, right? I know that's not a lot of you. That's why some of us are really close. But that connection, right? Some of you are good friends with somebody that you found out watched the same TV show as you. Or they like shopping like you do. Or they look at the same things on the internet. Or you play the same games. Or whatever the case may be. You found some common ground you're able to relate. You went through the same trauma as children, or you've been through the same life experiences as adults. That's the moment where you go, I think we could have a relationship. We could have a friendship. And the beauty of Jesus is that he is relatable. Real person. Just like you're a real person. You can fundamentally relate to God because he understands exactly what you're doing and going through every day. Because he became human. It's kind of crazy to think about. That you can connect with God, you can know God, because he became just like you. So God is knowable through Jesus. Because Jesus is God. Then Jesus goes on to say this, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. So why are you asking me to show him to you? His disciples did what I would have done. They've been like, hey, God, Jesus, at least if you are God, can you do some like God stuff real quick? As if he hadn't been doing that all this time. I would have been like, can you just have a fireball come down from heaven or like do something really, really crazy? That's exactly what the disciples did. And he's going, I already did by showing up here. This is the greatest miracle ever, is that the created became part of the creation, that the maker became part of the made, that anything but human became human. He says, so you don't need me to prove to you that I'm God. You've already been around me. You know it to be true. But he says, he uses the word, if you've seen me, you've seen God. Now, you know why he's saying that, right? Because seeing is believing, right? The moment we put our eyes on something, we don't question its truth anymore. This is why you had that great experience. You saw that amazing thing, and you're telling your friends about it, and they go, yeah, right, that didn't happen. You're like, no, I saw it with my own eyes. There's no question about it. This is why my children now, and probably your kids or grandkids, nieces and nephews, they're all doing things like this. If they don't have a picture of it, it didn't happen. If it's not on Instagram, if it's not on Snapchat, if it's not on TikTok, then it didn't happen. We need to see it to believe it. And so Jesus says, you have seen God. I mean, sometimes when I'm sitting alone or laying in bed, I'm like, it would be so cool to see God. I don't know how cool that would be. Like, I think it might be terrifying, but at the very least, I will see Jesus. I will see him in the flesh. And here's what's so cool. God, from the start, has been telling us to look. He's been telling us to use our eyes to understand him. Jesus said, look at the lilies of the field. Look at the birds of the sky. Over and over again, God says, look at the stars. Look at the sands on the ocean shore. In fact, 1,500 times in the scriptures, it says, look. And when Jesus came back from the dead and he walked through a locked door and stood amongst his disciples who had a hard time believing that the fact that he was there was real, Thomas, man after my own heart, with a lot of questions, says, I'm not going to believe it's you unless I can touch you, unless I can get up close and see it with my own eyes. And listen to how Jesus responds. Put your finger here and look at my hands. By the way, side road, I believe when you and I see Jesus in person in the future, in eternity, he will still have the wounds, which is kind of amazing to think about. His perfected body, is what we read about in the scriptures, will not be absent of the wounds because the sacrifice was perfect for you and for me. So Jesus says, just look at my hands, put your hand into the wound in my side. Don't be faithless any longer, believe. I understand, in order to believe it, you got to see it. So look, I'm right here. I believe with all my heart that I will get to embrace Jesus one day. And it won't be like phantom Jesus that I'm pretending to hug. I'm going to squeeze him real hard. And I think he's going to squeeze right back because he's very real. He's very human. And he's very God. This is so important when we are thinking about a big cosmic untouchable God. Jesus is touchable. And Jesus is God. All of the arguments that we want to get into about the existential reality of God and all these complicated things, Jesus is like, right here. Right here. So God says, I'm knowable. I'm touchable. And then he takes it even one step further, kind of the other sense that you and I use most to understand things. He says, don't you believe that I'm in the Father and the Father is in me? The words I speak are not my own, but my Father who lives in me does his work through me. There's something revealing about hearing, right? When you hear something, a truth is revealed in that, and you're connected with your emotions. The fact is, sound is an important part of our life. Just think about the last great movie you watched. I'm a band nerd, so I pay attention to these kinds of things. You may not, but there was a score underneath that, a music that ran throughout the whole movie that made you feel something, that sometimes kind of revealed what the director or the actor was trying to get you to feel and sense. It would be so strange if you sat down to watch a movie that had no music behind it, or where you couldn't hear the words. I mean, there's a reason they decided silent movies weren't going to make it. They needed to institute speakers and recording mechanisms into all of these kinds of things, because when we hear something, it connects us to the thing. that we're observing or we're learning about or we're trying to experience. That sound is so, some of us, the second you wake up in the morning, you hit play. And music is just part of your entire day. Your car on-off button doesn't even work. It's just always on. You pulled the knob off because you're just going to listen to it all the time. There's something in that. And Jesus says, if you've heard me, you've heard God. You've heard the very words of God. Now, I know my temptation is to think that all Jesus ever said was, I love you, love people, and we're all Gucci, baby. That's what I wanted to believe God said all the time. Now, Jesus was anything but a pushover. And oftentimes what Jesus did was he didn't scale back and make it easier. He actually dug deeper and made it harder. And so I want to share with you just a couple bits from what we call the Sermon on the Mount. It's like his most famous talk. In fact, it's repeated a bunch of different times all over the Gospels. And listen to how he says, he would state, this is what you've heard your whole life. Because most of his audience at that point was still just Jewish. They had grown up with the rules and the laws and all that. And then he starts like this, you've heard it, but I say, these are the words of God, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. That's what God said. Then he goes on to say this, but I say, anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Everybody knew, you don't cheat on your spouse. Then Jesus comes along and says, you don't even think about cheating on your spouse. That's what God said. And that evokes something in you, right? Like, ugh. Kirby says all the time when he preaches here, that's either amen or ouch. And a lot of times when Jesus would say things, it's ouch, like this one. But I say, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Come on, Jesus. And it would be easy to dismiss what he's saying as a wild-eyed, crazy rabbi from the Middle East, from a town nobody had ever heard of and nothing good ever comes from. But he's not that. He's God. And he made it very clear what following him means. And most of us will follow something based on what we hear. We'll pursue something based on what we hear. Have you ever done this, by the way, when you're driving into like Chicago? It's not as bad in Milwaukee, but when you're driving into Chicago, have you ever noticed that you turn the radio down? You like turn it down so you can see better? There's something really powerful about our audio in our life. So Jesus says, I understand, and I'm going to say things to you that you can rest assured are coming from God because I'm him. So you know what to do. Jesus is graspable. The nice thing about keeping God really kind of up there in the clouds and amorphous and we don't really know anything about him and we're uncertain and all that is we can go, well, I don't know what that God wants. I don't know what he's calling me to do with my life. But we don't have that excuse because God came to be with us and show us. So if you've ever asked the question, okay, if God is real, then what is God like? I can spell it out for you. J-E-S-U-S. That's God. That's what he's like. We are tempted always to make it way more complicated. And Jesus goes, you can know me, you can see me, you can hear me. I did not stay up in the clouds, leaving you confused and alone. I came and showed you exactly who I am. So if you don't hear me say anything else all morning long, I hope you at least hear this. If you know Jesus, you know God. If you know Jesus, you know God because Jesus is God. He's not a reflection of God. He's not a version of God. He is God. And we can know him deeply, and we can follow him because he's not been ambiguous about what he wants for our life. And we can get in line because we can see him. He's real, and he's true. Now, if you've really been paying attention, you've probably been going, this is not the question we've been asking this whole series. Nobody's been asking, is God real, or what's he like? We've been asking the question, who needs God? Who needs God? I mean, look at all we have. We have mobile phones that work anywhere in the world. We have Wi-Fi on airplanes. We have the internet. We have artificial intelligence now. We can look inside the human body and figure out what's wrong. We can take the lungs out of one body and put them into another body, and they will work. We can even now put chips into people's brains that have been suffering and fix it. It's kind of remarkable. We're kind of like God ourselves. I can answer the question for you. We're so smart, so who needs God? We need God. We all need God. I need him. Because he offers me things that the smartest person in the world cannot give me. And it's important that we understand that we can know him, that we can follow him, because what I'm about to share with you comes from him and him alone. Every single one of us, anyone that you meet, needs a sense of purpose. They need to feel like I was made for a reason. I'm here for a reason. There's something in the story that's for me. And the good news is, a guy named Paul met Jesus in the middle of the street one day and followed him and learned everything he ever knew about him from him. And he wrote all this down in letters. And in his letter to the church in Ephesus, he says, this is what Jesus taught me, that you are his masterpiece. And that he has good works for you to do, that he planned for you before you were born. Which means when you were born, when he brought you into this world, he had an agenda. You do have purpose. You were made on purpose for a purpose. Only God can tell you that. We know that because Jesus is him. Every single one of us, anyone you meet, is starved. They may not label it this, but they are starved for reconciliation and forgiveness and healing. We all want that. We all have stuff that's broken in our lives. We feel it every day. We wake up in the morning feeling that. That sense of dread and anxiety and overwhelm that you have, and because it's just like things are just never right. Paul said, here's what Jesus taught me. That because of him, you can be faultless and blameless. That you can be reconciled with God and with the purpose he's called you to in this world. We know that because Jesus said that. And he's God. Anyone you meet, every single one of us, more than ever, needs peace. Right? I mean, there's a reason a lot of us now say, I don't watch the news. It's too depressing. We don't like talking to our friends about what's going on in the world because it just is going to make us cry. We have bills we have to pay. We have retirements we have to save up for. We have new jobs we have to find. We have children we have to raise. And by the way, they live in a crazy society that has all kinds of stuff literally at their fingertips. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do that. We can be overwhelmed all the time with so much to worry about. But here's what Jesus told Paul. You don't have to worry about anything because you have a deep, intimate connection and relationship with the one who made it all. And when you give your worries over to him, he returns his peace. His peace, not your peace, his peace. And he described his peace like a river that flows easy through the middle of the woods. God said that can be yours because Jesus said that can be yours. And Jesus is God. Those three things alone, and we could keep going. Those three things alone, your job won't give you, your boyfriend won't give you, your wife won't give you, your big house won't give you, your car won't give you. None of it is going to be given to you by those things. That's why I say we need God. We all need him. And the beauty is, as big and as confusing as God is, he did not keep it that way. At the end of the day, the better way to say this is that we need Jesus. Because Jesus is God. And Jesus is relatable, and Jesus is touchable, and Jesus is graspable. So when we talk about following Jesus, he made it doable. He made it doable for us so that we could have purpose, and we could have peace, and we could have healing and forgiveness. When we started this series a month ago, my goal was not to convince you, if you are an atheist, to become a Christian. I hope you'll consider that. My goal at the beginning was to talk to the nuns in the room, and I don't mean N-U-N, I mean N-O-N-E. Those of us that kind of gave up on the whole idea of there being God that we can know. Gave up on the church thing, gave up on the Christian thing, because we started to feel like it does more damage than good, that it's more kind of pie in the sky thinking than real. My goal has been hopefully to get you to reconsider, to think again about this Jesus that I believe with all my heart is God and offers you things that you will not find or get anywhere else in the world. And so here's what I want to offer you, something that I've never actually done in my time at Great Lakes. I want to offer you an opportunity to start finding Jesus, to start investigating who he is, what he said, who he says you are, and the life that he offers you. And here's what we won't do. I'm not going to ask anybody to raise their hand. I'm not going to ask anybody to stand up. I'm not going to ask you to come forward or any of that kind of stuff you've maybe experienced at another church. I'm just going to ask you to consider in your heart, is it time for me to kind of reopen the investigation, to try it again? Because I recognize that I need God. So this is what I'm going to ask you to do if that's you. Send a text message. It's to this number. This doesn't go to anybody's phone. Right now it just goes into a system. But if you put that number into the to field in your text messaging app, and then in the body of it where you would normally type up your text, you just put the word Jesus. And then you hit send, it's going to send you back immediately a link. And that link's going to take you to a page that we've created that has all kinds of next steps, or what I would call investigative tools for you to use. So what does it mean and how does it look for me to start reading Scripture again? What does it mean and how does it look for me to try praying again? Really practical things. Things like, when's the next starting point where I can go ask the really hard questions that I've been holding on to for quite some time? And we'll bring this back up later, and if you just want to take a picture of it and then text it later today, you can totally do that. But we want to equip you on this journey, and what I believe is that because Jesus is knowable, because he is touchable, and because he is followable, you and I can find him, and we can have a real relationship with a real God. Because here's the deal. If you know Jesus, you know God. So the band's out to sing a song for us, and this song, it makes me cry every time. So be ready for that. I don't want you to sing with it. I want you to just sit there. And I want you to hear the words, because here's what's so beautiful about this song. It's written as if Jesus were speaking to you. Jesus, God himself, inviting you into something bigger. So just listen and let these words hit you.
Come out of hiding, you're safe here with me. There's no need to cover what I already see. You've got your reasons, but I hold your peace. You've been on lockdown and I hold the key. 'Cause I loved you before you knew There's no need to cover what I already see. You've got your reasons, but I'll hold your peace. You've been on lockdown, but I hold the key.
Jesus, I'm so grateful for those words. I'm so grateful that they're true and that we can believe them because you said them and you're God. I don't know what each of us is feeling this morning. Some of us are maybe encouraged because it was wind in the sails of something we already know. Some of us might feel a little uneasy because we're asking questions we thought we'd never ask again. Some of us are frustrated. Some of us are scared. But you give us your peace. And you give us your healing. Because we know you. So we know God. And we are so grateful. As we step into another week, help us to go through it each and every moment, knowing that the God who made us is with us. In Jesus' name, amen.